Hi guys, we are talking about Don't Look Now, which is a brilliant and beautiful movie. I love this movie so much. And I understand that it has flaws and I sometimes notice them when I'm watching it, but when the ending comes, I forget everything that I ever had negative to say about it. I think it has one of the most perfect endings of any movie, and I'm always impressed whenever I watch it at how impactful it can still be upon repeat watching. Don't Look Now. I love the cover of this. This is a 1973 movie starring Donald Sutherland and Julie Christie. They have children in it. Luckily, the children aren't around for a lot of it. This movie begins with a happy family, and everyone is just kind of hanging out in a country house in England. The children are out playing. John and Laura are inside and they seem happy and carefree. And John is doing a reconstruction of a church. He notices a slide that has a hooded red figure in it, which is a little weird. It doesn't look like it belongs there. And he seems disturbed by it a little bit and confused. This movie has a lot of intercut scenes, and we have John and Laura inside, and we have Christine and Johnny, the kids, outside. They're playing by a pond. Johnny's riding his bike. The girl, Christine, is playing with a ball. As they're roaming around, all of a sudden, John seems to have this terrible feeling, and he goes and looks outside, and the boy is running up to the house, obviously in distress. His sister is in the pond. She is drowning. So Donald Sutherland jumps into the water. He searches for her. He raises her up, and she is clad in this red mac and red clothes underneath, red tights, everything red, and it gives this impression of bloodiness that isn't there because she's not bloody. She's just, she has drowned. And he has such a horrible sounding scream, and she is dead, and he struggles to carry her body, and he slips in the mud, and they get dirty, and it's just very realistic. And Laura comes out and sees what he has in his arms, and she screams, and then we cut away. So they are trying to heal, and the boy is at some sort of boarding school, and John and Laura are in Venice, and John is working in his church doing the restoration, and you can tell that they're just trying to get back to being happy. And they are a very, very cute couple. I love them together. Donald Sutherland and Julie Christie have such good, not only is it chemistry, but they seem to have they portray a real couple so well. You almost believe that they are a couple. And just the little mannerisms, the way that he holds her hand, he'll grab her hand and squeeze it. The way they look at each other, it's all very natural, and it feels like you are watching them in real life. And while they're at this restaurant, there are two sisters sitting nearby, and one of them is blind, and she has the gift of second sight. They are in the bathroom with Laura, and the woman tells her, "I saw your daughter sitting between you and your husband, your daughter Christine," and she describes the raincoat that the kid was wearing, the red raincoat, and she's happy, she's happy to be there and with her parents, and she feels loved and all that stuff. And Laura, when we first saw her and she was very carefree and happy in the England home, she had this really loose hairstyle, and in this restaurant scene she is kind of tense looking. She looks older, but not like they've aged her using makeup or anything like that, but her hair is very severe and tightly curled. And after she interacts with these sisters who tell her that her kid is basically okay and is present with her and her husband, she faints and wakes up in a hospital, and she is just, her hair's loose again, and she just seems younger. And it has to have been something that they did on purpose. Donald Sutherland, like, I could just watch this man forever. I love him. He's sitting at the table waiting for his wife, and just the little things that he does, he picks up his briefcase and looks through his slides, and he, messes around with the place settings. He has such natural mannerisms. I love it. He is so good. He is such a good actor. I love watching him. So Laura is now very optimistic and very accepting of her daughter's death, which she hadn't been previously. And John is very indulgent. He gives her money to buy candles to light for her daughter, even though neither of them seems to be very religious. And he's just such a sweet, doting husband.
I don't like this church at all.
Well, I do. Do you have any change?
No.
I'm going to light a candle for her.
How much are candles?
50.
We don't have any 50s.
Maybe I'll light 6.
So there is the big sex scene, which was a huge controversy, I guess. And I think it's tastefully done. It's very playful. It's intercut with scenes of them getting ready for dinner. So there's just a ton of intercut scenes, and it's beautiful, and they just seem natural together, and like you are actually watching a real couple. They seem so perfect together. It's weird to me. But it's a great scene. I don't know what the problem was with it. I don't know if it was too much nudity or what. Later in the movie, we get John and Laura getting lost in the streets of Venice, which it seems very easy to do. There are all these alleyways, and like you could be in this completely deserted part of town, and then the next instant you are in this busy area with all these restaurants. And John passes by a spot and he says, "I know this place."
Oh, rats. I'm getting out of here.
I know this place.
And he does seem to have like premonitions or feelings. And the sisters do they don't warn Laura, but they do tell Laura that, he's got some kind of psychic power himself, even if he doesn't realize it or doesn't want it. He has it. There is a big difference between John and Laura as she is getting more and more encouraged by the fact that maybe she'll be able to communicate with her. Maybe even though Christine is dead, they can still communicate. They can still have a sense of their daughter. John is just very emphatic about, she's dead. She's just dead. He doesn't want to get into the world of mumbo jumbo and all that stuff. And he doesn't want to, he wants closure. He wants finality. And he has already kind of started achieving that. The scenery is beautiful. Venice is just gorgeous looking with all the rivers and the gondolas and the speedboats and the stone structure and just the oldness of the city, the beauty of the city. And it's wintertime or very late autumn, so it's chilly and you can just see the pretty blue sky combined with everyone bundled up in winter clothing, and it's like a perfect autumn day in a lot of scenes. I think it's actually winter, but I choose to think it's autumn. So John has a scaffolding accident, which seems like it's right out of The Omen. Just the way it happens, it is terrifying. He is way up, he's looking at a mosaic on the church wall, and a beam just falls out of nowhere. And Laura had been warned that Venice was dangerous for him. The sister said, he's not safe here. And she had told him that, so he is extra shaken up. And he almost falls to his death from this scaffolding that he's on. It takes a long time. It's a very drawn out scene, but he's trying to get to safety, and finally the men who are working there are able to get him. But you think about him crashing down into the stone floor of this church, and it's really, really disturbing. And their son had some kind of an accident. He had some kind of a fall as well, and Laura went to go see him and make sure he was okay. So she caught an early flight, so she's no longer in Venice with John. And I always forget how much time they spend apart in this movie, because she goes away and then a lot happens. And I'm going to spoil something major. They never see each other again, alive. Okay, so while Laura's out of town, John sees her. He is going by on a boat, and he sees her on another boat with the two sisters that he doesn't really love. And as they're going by, he thinks it's her, and he calls to her. She doesn't answer him, so he's tracking her down in the city. He's trying to find her. He's confused. She was supposed to be out of town looking after their son. Now he's worried that the sisters have kidnapped her or influenced her in some way. And he doesn't realize, and I don't know if we realize, see, I've watched it too many times. I don't know if we're supposed to realize or not, but he has a premonition. That's what that is. He is seeing the future. That hasn't happened yet. So he's under the assumption that Laura is actually in Venice, and she's not. This whole time there have been murders going on in Venice. There's a serial killer, and there have been women pulled out of the river, dead, his victims. So John is concerned about the sisters, and he's also concerned about the serial killer on the loose. And, having lost a kid, you're probably extra sensitive to the safety of all of your family. So, he's very upset and agitated. He goes to the police. The police kind of suspect him a little bit. They think that something is up with him. They have him followed, and it turns into a whole thing. The composer for this is Pino Donaggio, who did a lot of Brian De Palma's movies. I think I've talked about him a few times. I love his music. I think he is really good at setting the scene. He does a lot of piano music. The end song is just gorgeous with soaring piano, very sad, it draws out your emotions. John is walking along one of the canals, and we have the beautiful Pino Donaggio piano music, and he sees a doll. Probably reading too much into this. They could have chosen any doll, but he picks it up and saves it from being drowned in the water. And he picks it up, and it's one of the dolls that has the eyes that move. As he lifts it, the eyes flutter open, and it speaks to me in such a way that he has saved this doll. This doll has been saved. Her eyes open. She is alive in a way that he could not with his daughter. So I don't know if that makes sense. There's a whole thing where John should have stayed in one place, but he ends up running around Venice and chasing a red figure. And the red figure is reminiscent of his daughter wearing her red raincoat. And John is following this red figure, this red hooded figure, and it reminds us very much of his daughter, and the reflection that we get we had one earlier, and then we have one in this scene. And John is susceptible to thinking about his daughter because of all the stuff that his wife has been talking about, and the sisters who, are kind of weird, and the one who claims to have second sight and be psychic. So Laura is looking for John, and she just misses him. He was at the sister's house, and she just misses him. And the sisters are concerned, especially the blind one. She thinks something bad is going to happen to him, so she tells her to go find him and help him. And Laura's just running around trying to find him. We're concerned, we want them to be reunited. We want her to find him in time. And of course, it does not happen that way. John finally corners this hooded figure, this red figure, and it's got its back to him, and it's crying, and he feels like he wants to help it. He's up in this, it's very odd. It's like a spiral staircase up above in this room, and he's kind of trapped. It turns around, this figure, and you're expecting a ghost or his kid or something.
Wait.
She looks at him with the most disturbing face, and you realize that this person is not well. And he is taken aback, and he's like, wait, hold on. He's trying to get his bearings. I wish he would have been able to run away, but he does not. And she pulls out a huge knife and hits him in the side of the neck. And he just starts bleeding out. And he has all of this imagery that intercuts a whole bunch of stuff from the movie. It all just makes sense. And I love it so much. Like the red figure that was in the slide sitting there, this woman who's going to kill him, he was seeing things about his death, not his daughter's death, which we had thought originally, and just all these things that connect. And I don't think it's his life flashing before his eyes. Some of it could be, but there are some things that we see that he has no way of being experienced. Maybe he is using his psychic ability and he can see things, because one of the shots is of his son who is crying. Oh, John is obviously not there, but maybe he is able to see something with his psychic ability that he seems to actually have. But everything is just a callback, and he bleeds profusely and dies. Laura is almost there. She was almost able to stop him and save him, but she can't. His foot kicks the glass out from above this wall, and his blood starts running down the side of the wall. It's really, really beautiful. And so final. And I love John Baxter so much. It upsets me that he had to die. So it's just perfect and beautiful and emotional, and it ties everything together with a nice little bow, and it's impressive. It's so impressive. And after that, we have this soaring, crazy music, and we see the funeral procession that John had foreseen when he was having that premonition when Laura was out of town and he thought he saw her. That's what that was about. And we see Laura with the sisters and their son, and they are going to his funeral. And it's just a good movie. I love that movie, and that's the end. That's the end. We have some music, and that's it. So, yeah, if he had just stayed put, he's supposed to stay put, and Laura's going to come in. She's going to fly immediately to him and meet up with him, and they, should have had a happy life together. But now, 2 of them are dead, 2 of them are alive. That's it. I do want to read the short story that this is based on. I know they changed some details, and I would like to I would like to read the original. So if you've read the short story, let me know down below what you thought of it. I have to track it down, and it's been on my to-do list for a long time. I obviously have not gotten to it. But this is just such a good movie, and I really recommend watching it. Have a spooky day.